Hey guys, it's the History Nerd, and we're here with a new series on Stellaris. I was toying with the idea of doing an I do reviews of this game, but I'm just gonna play it. And I'm gonna play it because I like it. I've got about, I think it's 27 hours in this game, which basically translates to me coming home from work and then putting in a solid work day's hours in every day since release. So yeah, it's a really good game. Spoiler alert, if you're looking for Too Long Didn't Read of my opinion on this game, it's that this is a great game. So we're gonna jump right in with my human Galactic Union. I know, humans boring, boo. I've got an idea for another race to do in perhaps a different series, because I imagine we'll probably want to do more than one of these. I will probably want to do more than one of these anyway. So let's go through and quickly cover what it takes to set up an empire. I have a feeling, because this is like a week in, or 5 days since release, that you guys have seen plenty of race setting ups. So let's go through these as quick as possible. Obviously, because we're going with the Human Galactic Union, we're going to be picking humans, but the amount of race pictures that this game has is pretty damn impressive. And of course, the way this game is set up, these are entirely cosmetic. So you could go with heck, you could go with freaking, like, oh god, why can't I think of the name? Godzilla-like huge monster aliens, but make them like peaceful, benevolent traders. You could go with cute little space foxes, like, look at these little guys, and they could be the most evil things that have ever lived. But instead, we're gonna go with the human portrait, because obviously we're being human. Apologies for my cat running around. Stuff happens. Now, obviously, we can give your species names and then ship lists. It's relatively easy, from my understanding, to get a custom ship thing going on. We could even have ourselves a ship prefix. So, like, I don't know, a human galactic ship. There we go. Or why not? HGUS. A Human Galactic Union ship. There we go. It's a shame I didn't call this the Human Union Galactic for a hug ship, but I think that fits more in line with the Blorg. Our traits, so I've gone fairly easy with this one. Charismatic and communal, I think both of those fit humanity fairly well. Of course, we've got tons of different things, and I have certainly, in my 20-some-odd hours of this game, tried out many a combination, including some that just don't work out. And the game doesn't let you know. The game doesn't warn you if you, say, pick a xenophile decadent that, hey, your people like aliens, but they also like slaves, so you're gonna have to make a choice there. Obviously, changing the ruler portrait is a thing. We're sticking with the Sol system, Earth, Sol, continental preference. Tons of different types. These don't really factor in. Like, a continental world isn't necessarily better than, say, a tundra world. The differences, of course, are what's habitable. So for continental, right, we can look at tropical and ocean, and those are pretty close to ours. We would get a relatively good habitability rating out of them. The further away you go on either side, the worse they are. So, that's just something to keep in mind, but there's not one that's better than the other, which is good. That's super handy. Obviously, we're going to go with mammalian cities because we are a mammal. We're going to be a collectivist, militarist, materialist nation, or empire, I guess would be the way to put it. You can, of course, go for the fanatical, which will give extra boosts to things, but I like being a little bit spread out. We're going with the military junta. In my head canon, first off, that's how you pronounce junta, and secondly, over the next 200 years, Earth nations kind of become a thing of the past, and we form into big Earth super blocks, and then to get out into space, these big Earth superblocks decided to come together in a elected type government where different military leaders from all of these national blocks get elected to different positions. I did a little map of how I think the world would look under this system to get myself ready while I was getting excited about Stellaris, because I've been freaking immersed in all the hype for this game, and I do like it a lot. Empire name, the Human Galactic Union. Obviously, our adjective is human, and our flag is a nice blue and gray galactic thing. I mean, that looks straight out of Star Trek, but you know, it's kind of the thing that we're going with. Now, when it comes to starting weapons, I understand that if you're playing this game from a min-max perspective, energy weapons are the way to go. I am going projectile weapons because I think it makes the most sense for humanity in space. I feel like we'd probably develop projectile weapons before we develop energy weapons. So railguns before laser cannons. And I mean, obviously there's missiles, but I've never really been a fan of missiles in space games. We've got our FTL method. I'm keeping it on warp. Nice and simple, nice and boring. Hyperspace travel can be really good or it can be really bad. It's really situational dependent, and wormholes they do require a little bit more of an investment to grow. You start off with a wormhole station and you use those to travel, but if you want to expand further, you've got to build the stations and you got to defend the stations. They just take a little bit more work, and I haven't really played around with them as much as I would feel comfortable doing for a video series. So let's go with the mammalian ships, and I think we're ready. Let's click on done, and let's get going with our galactic generation. There are quite a few options. It's maybe not as detailed as some other 4X games out there, but it's still detailed enough. And I think what we will do, just because why wouldn't you, so we're going to go with a huge galaxy, and we can have up to 39 other galactic races out there. I don't know if we need that many. I've certainly never gone full to the max, but I think, well, why don't we go with a 25 and we'll have 5 advanced AI starts. So what this is 25 other space nations, 5 of which will be slightly more technologically advanced than the other 20. So it kind of takes away, I mean, the idea of most 4X games is to have an equal start, and this kind of branches out a little bit from that, going more into the 4X strategy area. Then everybody starts the same and builds up. What else? We're just going to leave it on normal difficulty. We're going to allow any FTL mode, and I never play in Iron Man, so why start now? Let's play. Let's get this set up. And I gotta say, the load times aren't that bad at all. Like, that's pretty much the worst of it, is generating a 1,000 system galaxy, which is what you would expect. Jeez, that is the H-Gus. I like it. In the eons since the first primitive human communities took shape on the grassy savannas of Earth, our civilization has spread and prospered. Technological progress has been swift, but as our numbers increased, the civilian population grew increasingly restless. With our world on the brink of anarchy, the military stepped in to restore the rule of law. The new order was established to safeguard our nation from all threats, both external and internal. Now, after the successful creation of several experimental subspace fields, the finest minds of the Human Galactic Union have finished development of the first warp drives. The star systems themselves are finally within our grasp. Let's begin. And here is Stellaris. So here is the Sol system. The first thing we're going to do is take our science ship, not our constructor ship, and start surveying the system. So we can see here Nahe, or Nahi, a anomaly research expert, is going to go off on the Usurper and do some surveying. So let's go ahead, unpause the game, and let's see Nahi do her thing. While she's off doing that, of course, we can set up our research, and I think we're going to go with the solar panel network because getting energy up first and early is good. We're going to go with colony ship because getting colony ships as soon as possible is also a good thing to do. And we are going to get, this is where it gets difficult. We've got an industry expert, so he's going to research, Kareem here is going to research industry techs at a 10% increase. We got the Betherian power plant level 1, which will reveal a unique source, and it is an industry tech. So let's go with that. Now, the tech system, because in most 4X games, you got a tech tree, right? Like, you can't research writing until you research, pottery in Civilization. And well, you know, that connection might not totally make sense. You can understand that techs lead to each other. I mean, they do historically, and they do in a 4X game with a tech tree. Stellaris is a little different. It's got a tech deck. So what you've got is every time we research something, we get a choice of 3 or more. It can depend on your race. You can get bonus attributes so you can get another tech. You can research the attribute to get another tech. You can, through killing of space things, you can go out and you can get technology from them that you can then research to supplement your fleet with. Usually your fleet, it really is supplement your empire, but usually it's with your fleet when we're talking about killing off of space aliens. So, our science ship goes and surveys Sol, and I've got to say, it's not looking like the world's greatest start. We've made it out to Uranus, and we've only got 3 energy there. Let's get rid of the tech screen, and let's check out our position in the galaxy. We're in the far corner, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. We went with elliptical, so as you can see, I mean, this galaxy is huge. And there's places like the Forbidden Nebula. That seems like a fun place to go. The Altaran Miasma, nebulas and things like that. They're dotted all over, and we know the location of each star. We just have no idea what makes up most of them. We can see some black holes out here. Somewhere we'll see pulsars. It's a really diverse galaxy, I guess you would say. Oh, our starting position. We better hope there's something in Barnard's star, basically. And in my experience, there probably won't be. Let's see. We got a barren world, we got a toxic world, we got a molten world, and we've got a toxic world. So there is nothing for us in Barnard Star from a colonial perspective anyway. We can, of course, go in there and research, and of course we will go in there and research. And hopefully there'll be some things we can discover. So yeah, how's this looking? We got some minerals, we got some energy. We still have a few systems or a few planets left to scan, which is good, but the first thing I'm going to do is take the Creator, our construction ship, and get ourselves a mining base built up on Uranus right away so we get 3 more energy. That will lead us very nicely into the discussion about our resources. So as we are researching, let's pull up our research screen. We are researching the Betherian power plant, which will reveal a unique resource. Think of that like unique resources in Civ or any other 4X game. They're just things that allow you to build special buildings or get certain bonuses. And that's basically all there is to say about those special resources. Other than that, we've got 3. We have energy credits, which are, created via energy production buildings like mining stations over energy resources, or if we head down to Earth, power plants on energy producing tiles, things of that nature. We've got minerals, which basically the same thing, except it's chunks of metal instead of units of energy. And then we get something called influence, which is the political clout for your empire. You can use influence to do things like issue edicts. So we can see here, if we want to get an information quarantine putting strict checks on the flow of information, then we could institute that. As you can see, it will drop our research a little bit, but our ethics divergence will drop as well, which is a good thing. You don't want your pops developing different ethics. Initially, it's not that big of a deal. It's not like we're going to have huge factions on Earth that's switching out and becoming massive, pacifist, spiritualist individualists. But eventually, as you spread out, these things can happen. Looks like we've got our scientist... Excuse me, let me grab a drink of water here. It looks like we got our scientists leveled up to skill 2, and she has found an anomaly. So let's go over and take a look at that. Whoops. On Venus, in fact. There were signs of activity by an ancient precursor civilization on this inhospitable rock. So if we take our researcher and we go to queue up that research, we can see that there's a 22% chance risk of failure. That's dependent upon the difficulty of the anomaly and the level of your scientist. So because we're only level 2, that's still almost a quarter chance of it failing. Now that is only a quarter chance, but I'd still like to get that down as much as I can. And in the early game, the speed with which you go from like level 1 to 3 is pretty quick. So surveying a couple of systems should get you up to the point where you can handle level 1 anomalies without facing too much of a risk of failure. So let's talk about then the early game, because I think we've got the basics covered. And there we go, we got our mining station done. That's lovely. And we can always throw up another mining station on Io, and I think we'll do that right away here. I like getting energy done first, because mining stations cost you energy. Each mining station costs 1 energy a turn. Obviously, an energy station isn't going to cost you energy. It's just going to give you energy. So I like getting those up first, getting our energy set to a relatively decent amount before we start turning out mineral producing stations on that bit. One last thing, I guess we should talk about the tile blockers and things of that nature. So on your planet, as you can see, we've got these things like sprawling slums or industrial wastelands, and we can see that it's going to cost some stuff to clear, and that will allow you to place pops on these tiles so that they can then work the resources that are below them. And in typical 4X nature, as you can see, some of these have buildings in place, so you can easily go in and build a building here. So we've got all the options. We got a science lab, we got a hydroponics farm, mineral silo, a mining network, and a power plant. Most of these have an associated resource with them, and what you'd want to obviously do, like here, we'd obviously want to put a mining station here. Now, short of your capital tile, so in this case on Earth, our planetary administration, which we can see gives us 3 minerals and 3 food. As far as I know, each building only works with 1 resource. So in this case here, taking a look at the 1 mineral and the 1 food, we would have to choose between the 2. And in here, it's a toss-up. Over here, it would make more sense, for instance, to build a farm to double our food production at the cost of 1 mineral than it would to get a mining network, which is only going to increase our mining potential by, 60%, but we lose out on 2 food. So we will slap down a hydroponics farm there. Gives you a nice little warning that, hey, just to let you know,
survey complete.
You're gonna not collect that, and that's fine. So let's take a look at our planetary summary here. You can see we're generating 5 food. We have 7 pops. Our planet is a size 16, so we can hold 16 pops once everything has been cleared out. And that's basically it. Pops, they're like Victoria Light pops. So as you can see here, they're growing along. Each pop has their own identity, and you can see their own happiness, their own ethics divergence, and all these other things. They do factor in as the game goes on, and as we get into the later game, then, dealing with your pops becomes more and more of, I wouldn't say an issue, but just a thing you need to do. Before we head out to Barnard Star, well, we can head out to Barnard Star now. You can see here the dotted lines. So this dotted line is our survey range. So this is as far as our sensors can see, which is why we can see things in Barnard Star and not really anything else outside of it. The next ring, the orange dotted line here, represents our range. So any star within this area here, we can get to in a single jump. If we wanted to, say, get to the Forbidden Nebula, I will just cue this movement up. Oh, we can do it now. So we'll just move here, and you can see we've got to do many, many little jumps to get there. But with the warp drive, totally, absolutely possible. Instead, let's just survey the system and let Scientist T do her thing. And like I say, once we get our scientists leveled up to level 3, we'll head back to Venus and check out that anomaly. What else can we do? Well, we've got a constructor ship that isn't really doing anything, so let's go ahead and get another mining station built up on Neptune. We got the farm coming in there. We'll work on getting Earth developed as time goes by. But now we can take a breath. We've got our empire embarking on their first steps in the Galactic Global. That doesn't really work, does it? In the Galactic quest for finding more things out there and conquering space. Speaking of conquering space, we need a good solid fleet to be able to make space great for humanity. And we can see here, currently, the proud human fleet composed of 3 corvettes teamed up in the First Strike Force without a leader. So, you know, they're pretty cool little ships, you know? I like the design. What I really like in this game is what I'm doing right now with the camera. And you can do that anywhere. So if you maybe, I don't know, want to try and get a better position, a better look-see at the galactic map, you can do that. And that's not too crazy for a 4X game. There's been plenty of 4X games that have done a map that you can spin around all you want. One of the things that they haven't done, and one of the nicest features in Stellaris, one of the simplest features too, is this. Right now I'm holding down on the right mouse button to be able to move around the screen. I'm just going to let it go, and it reverts back. Like, it doesn't really adjust the tilt, but it reverts back so that you're facing quote-unquote galactic north all the time. Really, really good, because there's a lot of 4X games where it's quite easy for you to get disoriented with the way you're moving around the map, and it just never really comes back. So I like that they did that. That's a nice little help. And we can see we're almost done. Well, we are now done. The survey of Barnard Star, there's not much there. 2 energy, and there really wasn't much there to scout out to get our scientists leveled up. So we're gonna just start heading out into unknown space now. We don't know what any of these stars are, but we're gonna go out and see if we can find out what's out there. In the meantime, I started talking about military ships and I got distracted. Damn, this game taking my attention away from things. One last thing about the galactic map. When you're specifically playing as humans, you will, if you set it up so that you start in Sol, you will always have Barnard Star, Alpha Centauri, and somewhere around here Sirius as well, just to give it a little bit of a familiar feel. Because, you know, we're humanity. We should have stars that we know of. Anyway, what I will do is I will grab my constructor ship, and from the galactic view, you can start building mining stations and all the other things that you are going to need, which is really, really handy. Now, you can't do individual ones, so you'll have to have the minerals on hand to build every one if you want to do it from here. But because there's only one source of energy there, we'll just send our constructor ship over to Barnard Star to get ourselves some energy. Well, our scientist surveys Alpha Centauri, and before I get distracted again, we're going to take a look at the shipbuilder. There's really not much to take a look at now. As you can see, we've got 3 ship designs. We're going to go with the Corvette, or the Scimitar, as has been named. And you can see here, it's nowhere near the level of customization as, say, Galactic Civilizations, which I think, if you're into a 4X game specifically for shipbuilding, hands down is the best shipbuilder because of the amount of customization you can give each ship that you build. For those unfamiliar with Galactic Civilizations 2 and 3, I don't know about 1, I've never played it, but you use, in your ship designer, you have assets that you throw together to form a ship hull, and you can get some incredibly cool looking ships that way. That's not available in Stellaris, but there's still enough customization here to make this a worthwhile investment, and not just, having your ship types get upgraded to a better ship type and your weapon types getting upgraded to a better weapon type. Although generally that is what you're going to be doing with your ship designer. But there's a lot here. So, I mean, first off, we can just take a look at your Corvette core, and we've got a choice of 3. Right now we're with the Striker, which gives us 1 small and 1 medium weapon and 5 utility slots. We could go with an Interceptor core, which will give us 3 small weapons, and we might swap out to it at a later date. Again, the 5 small utility slots, and then the Shifter core, which only gives us 1 weapon, but we've got far more utility slots on there. So you can really customize the use of your ships. Now, these will change the appearance ever so slightly, but it's not really enough from a removed distance, like on the map view, to tell apart your differences in Corvettes or whatever. I would like to have more diverse hulls over the course of ship types that you can see from a distance, and so that I think that that would just be a little bit easier for designing diverse ships. But we'll get to that further on down the road. Initially, we just really have to worry about getting ship designs up. Now I'm going to leave the anomaly for now, and I'm just going to go through basically redesigning the Scimitar class ship. So we've only got 1 weapon, so we'll slap in the mass drivers up top, and we can see over here we've got our ship stats. So slapping those 2 guns on caused us to have a massive power draw. We've got the same base hull points. We don't have much in the way of armor. We've got no shields. Our evasion is there. Our speed is there. Our damage output is there. So that's 5.3 damage a day, and special values of 1, which is because of our sensor range. So one of the first things we're going to need to do is sort out our energy problem. So let's get some fission reactors. We'll slap 2 in there, and that's about all we can do for subsystems at the moment. And now we've got ourselves a we've got ourselves a stock Corvette. This is the best we can do. Along with your weapons and your utility items, you've also got things like warp drives. You've got an AI, which you can develop or research advanced types of things, so like more defensive, more offensive, things of that nature. We've got our thrusters, which affect your speed. So warp drive affects your speed at warp, so traveling between systems. The thrusters will affect your speed within the system, and then the ship-mounted radar systems, or your scanners, in this case the ship-mounted radar, will affect your sensor range. So that's basically it for the ship design, and of course we'll get into that as we need to. In the meantime, let's take a look at this anomaly on Alpha Centauri 1, so we'll just quickly go to it. We got 2 pop-ups. First off, the discovery of alien life. The HG US Usurper has made a startling find on Alpha Centauri 1. The planet is teeming with alien life. For the first time in history, we've encountered life forms that did not originate on Earth. This amazing discovery has silenced those who believed we were alone in the universe. Although none of the alien creatures found on Alpha Centauri 1 are sentient, it is likely only a matter of time before we encounter beings that are. We may not be alone out here, and we got a nice little boost to our society research. So let's take a look at Alpha Centauri 1. We'll pause that, and here's the life we're talking about. We've got dangerous wildlife, and we've got dense jungles. So Alpha Centauri 1, a habitability of 80% because it's a continental world just like Earth, but it isn't Earth. So the only other planets than your capital system that you will find with 100% habitability are Gaian worlds, and we'll get to those when we find one. Anyway, what we're going to want to do, well, Na here finishes off the sector survey of Alpha Centauri. We will queue up this anomaly research. Now, it's got less of a risk than the one on Venus, but it's still a level 1. So level 1 doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be the easiest. Different anomalies will have different difficulties, and there's different factors that factor into them, like the type of anomaly they are. So in this case, the anomaly on Alpha Centauri 1 is something moves with near purpose down on Alpha Centauri 1. That shouldn't really be all that surprising since it's teeming with life, whereas if we take a look at Venus, there are signs of activity by an ancient precursor civilization. So that's going to be a civilization that was tooling around the galaxy long before humanity possibly even existed. So, you know, we'll get that sorted and found out soon enough. What else is going on? Well, we can probably take a look at the surface of Earth and see what we can do to make things better. What do we need? We're producing 8 minerals, 9 power, and 3 influence. We can't build any buildings, initially anyway. I don't know if there's some text that we can discover later on that will allow us to build influence buildings. But generally, you're building buildings to get energy or minerals or food for the planet. Now, food is good because the more food you have, I'm pretty sure, will affect the speed at which pops grow and their happiness. So if pops don't have food, they will be unhappy, and unhappiness leads to many things, like revolts and things you just generally don't want to have to deal with. The Human Galactic Union is abuzz with news of the alien life found by the Usurper. While hardly intelligent by human standards, the fascinating beings defy easy classification and hint at the immense complexities and possibilities of life in the universe. I added the life bit, but I think I'm allowed to do that. I am, after all, the great leader of this military junta. Apparently I'm an Archon named David. So what's going on here? We've got our ruler traits. So this, ruler of the entire nation will have a percentage bonus to food and energy credits as well. We've got our ethics. So as a collectivist, we've got a little bit of slavery tolerance and a little less food consumption. As a militarist, alliances are going to cost us more influence, but for that we get a boost to rivalry gain influence, we get army damage, and our pops are just a little bit happier if we're at war. And we're also materialist, giving us a flat output boost to our science research. And again, like I say, none of that, I didn't go with any of the, we can leave them in Barnard Star for now. I didn't go with any of the fanatical beliefs. For the next playthrough that I'm thinking, there will definitely be a fanatical belief. You can only have one, and it does affect things. Also, the things that you pick do affect outcomes or options in in-game events, which is pretty cool. I like that that's a thing. Anyway, at this stage, we can probably kick up speed just a little bit more and start talking about the game as it develops. Obviously, this is a strategy game. This is a paradox game, so it is, on the longer side to play, which is good. I mean, these are the types of games that I like to play, right? So I really do like that. One thing I will say is that this game, so far from what I've experienced, is far more 4X than it is grand strategy game. And I have no doubt that the mid and late game, there's just huge amounts that are ripe for development with expansions and DLCs. So, because one of the big complaints about this game so far is that it's pretty dull, and I don't agree with that complaint, but I can understand where people are having that view. If you've played Crusader Kings 2 or you've played Europa Universalis 4 recently with the DLC, you're seeing games that have far more in-depth detail into certain aspects of the game that if you went back and played the base games, the release versions, the 1.0s, you wouldn't have them. And Stellaris is the same thing. Obviously, it's a brand new game, and it's a brand new IP, and it's a brand new style that Paradox is going for. So, yes, this game isn't as in-depth and intriguing and awe-inducing as, say, a Crusader Kings 2 playthrough going on right now. Cough, cough, Habsburg Millennium. But that's not to say that there isn't the possibilities for that in the future. And what is in the game right now is really good. At least from my opinion. One of the species native to Alpha Centauri 1 has, according to the usurper orbiting the planet, achieved a tentative mastery of the planet. Science officer Na-He proposes that we should monitor the development closely and maybe even help them along if possible. So, what we've got, what's just happened, in our very sparse starting location, as you can see, our stars are very spread out. You compare that to, like, if we started here, we would have tons more options for settling. But so far, our two locations, 1, no hope for colonizing, 2, Alpha Centauri, definite hope for colonizing, but there's these guys. The Alvothari. If we take a look at them, we can see that they are conservative and they prefer continental worlds. So what these guys are molluscoid pre-sentient beings. So we can't really do anything with these guys right now. Now what we could do is we could go to Earth and we could get a spaceport, and we could, well, not a spaceport, we could get an army, and we could raise an assault army, and then we could send the Marines in, and we could capture Alpha Centauri. What would then happen is these poor presentient beasts would become, I mean, I don't want to say our slaves, because we're not necessarily going towards a slave focus, but they'd be our unwilling helpers, might be the way to put it. So we could do that. We could also we could take our construction ship, and we could go over here. First, we would have to build a frontier outpost to get Alpha Centauri under our... Oh, not quite. Okay, one more system and we should be good. We could build a frontier outpost to get Alpha Centauri under our borders so we could go and build something there. And critically, what I would want to build there is an observation station. With the observation station, we could then gain a little bit of society research by researching these beasts. I shouldn't call them beasts. And they'd have to be at the Bronze Age for us to get that, I think. Following the discovery of lower forms of life, the human capital receives news of the usurper's observations of beings with impressive, if latent, cognitive capabilities and great evolutionary potential. A science officer Na-He's report is received with marked enthusiasm. Yay! So what we could do is, like I said, we could send over an observation post to watch them, or we could send them over to aggressively watch them by interfering, or not interfering, but by going down and, probing. Aggressive observation. We could go and we could enlighten them. So we could slowly introduce new technologies and new societal understandings, and eventually bring this species into the space age as a vassal of our own. Or we could go in, once they reach a certain tech point, and infiltrate them to then take them over peacefully, and have them as just a planet in our system. Now, we're kind of limited with them being presentient to going in and basically teching them up, doing some genetic splicing once we get the tech, and building up the race to be what we would want them to be. So, that's something to consider. And I think I'll leave that up to suggestions in the comments. Should we go in there with our Marines and just take the planet? Or should we send in the scientists and slowly make them vassals of ours? It's a possibility. Either one of those is a possibility. And I'd like to know what you guys would like to see. So let me know in the comments. It looks like we've got ourselves finally level 3, which is great news, and I don't think we necessarily need to continue with the survey of the system right now. There's 2 Tundra worlds, and we're so far from Tundra that it's not even funny. So there you have it. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to bring the Usurper back home, and we can see now the research risk on this is only 15%. Like I say, it is a level 1 anomaly, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be the easiest anomaly we've ever got to do. So we'll send her back, do the research on that, and see just what is going on Venus with the precursor civilization. While we're doing that, and another nice UI thing that I like is that from the galactic view, I can go in and build things on my planets. Which is nice that I don't have to jump down to the planetary, or jump into the system view, jump down to the planetary view, build something just to jump out 2 more levels. I can do it all from here, and I love it. I'm going to pause the game, because all I'm doing is talking. I think what we'll do is we'll get another farm built up here, like so, and then we will take a look at our new research. So we've got the solar panel networks, which is great. That's energy on our space stations. It's lovely. And so now we can go through and research, 1 of 3. We can get a gravitic sensor array built, which will allow us to upgrade our science ship with better sensors, well, any ship with better sensors, and increase our survey speed. We could get a planetary fortification boost and some deflectors on our ships so we can have some good beam defense, or we could get ourselves fusion reactors, which will increase our energy storage capacity, which is important because you can only store certain amounts of raw materials before you're just basically burning what you're producing. And we would get a new fusion reactor, which means that we could have less reactors on our ships for more power, which is good. I mean, right now it doesn't really matter because all we can do is have reactors as secondary systems. So I think what we'll do is we'll go with deflectors because we could probably use some defenses on our ships as well. And yeah, so I think what we will do is once Scientist T here is done with Venus, we'll see what's going on with the precursors, and we'll end the episode there. Slowly but surely ticking away, doing her research. And yeah, so the situation, the galactic situation, it's weird. I've not... Oh no. The signs of First League activity in the vicinity of Venus turned out to be false leads. Science Officer Nahi has asked to continue the search with the Usurper elsewhere. So we failed that, but it wasn't a critical failure. So that's good. Let's go and see if we can find a system we can live in. Because right now, Tundra worlds, those aren't helping. And we gotta figure out what we're gonna do with those pre-sentient beings on Alpha Centauri. Because, going in and just conquering them, that's really the easiest way to do it. Now, we wouldn't have human pops there, right? It would just be them, and they'd be very angry. But, it is what it is. What do we got? We got a continental world, so let's pause this and instead start the survey on that continental world.
Construction complete.
Perfect, so that should be our other farm on there, and by now we should be producing a buttload of food, which is a weird way to express a an amount of food, but yeah, it's definitely a metric buttload of it. And I think what we will do is swap these guys out and start building a mining network there. Alright, so what do we got? We have a size 20 planet, which is pretty darn good. You can see that it is a rocky world with a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, active and stable hydrosphere. Great land masses are separated by oceans with large climate variations depending on latitude and precipitation. Sounds a lot like Earth. We've also got some researching to do,
complete.
which is pretty good. If we take a look at the actual tiles, this is a fairly rich planet, actually. There's quite a lot of, well, maybe not quite a lot, but there's a fair amount of minerals. We don't have much in the way of food, but we can burn through the food mineral sources. We got engineering research, physics research, and society research. So we got one research of everything on here. That's a pretty good system. I think once we get our colony ships up, it might be a good idea. Speak of the devil, look at that. So let's go for new research. And I think what we'll do to get ourselves building up influence right away and giving us an edict we can do to boost happiness, we'll go with planetary unification. Now, of course, from an RP perspective, that's the militaries, the great military blocks of Earth. You know, having spent 5 years going out and exploring the galaxy, they realize that Earth is indeed a tiny, tiny speck on the very edge of the galaxy, and we're going to need to come together if we're going to want to be successful in our quest for galactic expansion. I'm not going to say conquest, but expansion. So,
Anomaly found.
oh, okay. Sirius 5's toxic biosphere gives the planet a very unique color scheme. That's all we know about this anomaly. We're a 3-star scientist and we've got a failure risk of 85%. So we can see it's got a base risk of 60, and due to the scientist's skill level being lower than the anomaly level, we'll get an increased risk level of 25%. It's a level 4 anomaly. I've never seen one of those yet. So that's pretty exciting. That's something we'll have to come back at a much later date.
Construction complete.
Once he here gets up to level 5, we might have a better chance at doing that. But it still seems like it's going to be a pretty difficult thing to research. So, we got Earth growing nicely. We've got the technology for a colony ship. Let's build a colony ship. Well, they're expensive. We're going to need 315 minerals. As you can see, we are lacking 71. We're producing 12 a month. So, with our 10 energy, what we could do is hold off ever so slightly on the colonization of Sirius, and first off, build ourselves a solar power network. Well, solar power networks, those aren't going to get you any more minerals, history nerd. What are you doing? Don't you understand the basics of economic structures? Yes, I do, straw man argument I've created, but we need energy to power mining stations. So what we're going to do now, because we have 6 untapped mining in Sol here, we're going to start building up some mining stations. Oh, who have I got selected? Strike Fleet 1? No, you stay in orbit. We will take the Creator and go for a mining station there, and we'll slap another one in there, and by that time, we should have, you know, more minerals to build the third one. Now that seems kind of ridiculous. We were 71 minerals away, and now we're 300 minerals away. That's just not smart. Why didn't you just save? Well, I'm not much of a saver, and I feel like getting more mineral production up early is going to be helpful because we'll be able to recoup the loss of the colony ship much, much faster. And then, you know, be able to spit out a second colony ship sooner than we would if we just saved. And we got our Betherian power plants up, so let's take a look. Industry, we could use increased mining network. Let's do that. And yeah, I think that that's going to be a good spot to leave the video for today. So let's give this a save as Let's Play, so I'll remember what one I'm playing. Give her a save, and we're going to leave it there for now. Now, I'm going to get back and probably play some more of my off-screen campaign so I can experience more of the mid-game and get a better understanding of what this game has to offer as it goes on, and so I'm not totally taken aback by situations presented to me while I'm showing them off to you guys. I want to have at least a little understanding of what I'm facing, because otherwise, you know, this first series could end quite quickly. As always with the first series, let me know how the audio levels are. Let me know how things are going. Let me know if you guys are enjoying this, and let me know what you guys want to see. Also, please let me know what we're going to do with those pre-sentient aliens on Alpha Centauri 1, because we're going to have to figure that out sooner than later. Thankfully, Sirius has a system we can colonize, so it's not a huge rush, but we're going to need to figure that out sooner than later. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. Thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Leave your comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, jokes, musings, what have you below. Thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next time.